a spacecraft to orbit. For that, we still need chemical propulsion. That's what boosters work by, with chemical rockets. But once the spacecraft is in space, you can use any kind of propulsion to move it around. And it turns out that the use of electric propulsion has many, many benefits. In the slide in here, you can see a few examples of the kind of work that we do in our lab. We have experimental facilities, and we have tested many types of these electric propulsion devices. The big benefit is that an electric propulsion device, instead of creating an exhaust that comes from a chemical reaction, it comes from electric particles that are accelerated using electric and electromagnetic fields. And in general, what you'll have is an exhaust that moves very, very fast in comparison to just using chemical reactions. Very, very fast, actually. It turns out that if you take, for example, a molecule of water and you ionize it, so now it has electric charge, and you apply 2 volts, just 2 volts across a pair of electrodes, you will accelerate that molecule of water to a velocity that is about the same as the velocity of the most efficient chemical rocket available today. So it has a lot of benefits. And when you do this, you can save a lot of propellant. And that has a lot of benefits for many missions, particularly one that is very common is telecommunications. You have these very large communication satellites in orbit, and you don't want to bring a lot of propellant. You want to substitute the propellant with things that actually produce a profit, like channels for telecommunications. So substituting chemical propulsion engines by electric propulsion engines has a very big impact. And again, in our lab, we have been doing work in plasma thrusters and miniaturization of some of these electric propulsion devices so that we can use them in tiny little satellites that are very appealing for the new commercial era of space, and maybe we'll hear a little bit about that in our discussion today. So I would like to invite Greg to come to the podium and give a 5-minute introduction.
Perfect, thank you. Thank you, Paulo, and thank you, Van, for the opportunity to speak here today. I'm quite excited. The term space tourism is really interesting because I've been involved, just a little bit about myself, in space tourism for over 20 years, before the term probably was even around. Back in 1995,